This is a C major chord. It's probably the most simplest and most easiest chord to learn, because this doesn't even take a music expert to even know what this is. But what if we make this 4 keys instead? What happens if we add a B? This is a C major 7 chord. And why is it called the C major 7, you may ask? It's because the B is actually the 7th key of the C Ionian scale, also known as the C major scale. So what happens if we add a 9th? This is called the C major 9th. And this is the C major 11th. And this is the C major 13. Pretty interesting, right? But if this is the case, then why can't we continue further? Why wouldn't C major 15 exist? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Adding the quote-unquote 15 is pretty much impossible because it's all gonna loop back to the same root key. So it's like playing the same chord but just in a different octave at the same time. So how are we supposed to add a 15th? Well, before that, we're gonna have to look at the other chords. You know, the classic ones like minor, augmented, diminished, suspended 4 and 2. Now, the suspended chords. Now let's take a look at this one right here. The C dominant 7 suspended 4th, aka the 7 sus 4. What makes this interesting is that the 7 doesn't actually mean the major 7, it's just 7. And what does this mean? Well, it's basically the dominant 7. The dominant 7 is not the 7 of the C Ionian scale, but instead it's the C natural minor scale. And we can use this to break the music theory rule. Let's take a look at the structure of the C7 sus 4 chord. First, the root key, the foundational note of the chord, which is C. Next is the perfect 4th, which is F, that replaces the standard E, aka the major 3rd, G, the perfect 5th, the stable harmonic component, and lastly, B flat, which adds the dominant 7 quality. What makes this chord more fascinating is the F, the perfect 4th. This 4th never actually specified which key that this belongs to. There are so many scales that has the same 4th, you know, like Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. And looking back at the structure of the C7 sus 4, we can keep adding more keys and it will still count as a C chord. So what happens if we do that? Whoa, okay. Now obviously this chord is a non-music standard chord. So what does this mean? It basically doesn't follow any scale at all. So musically, but theoretically, this is the best that we could work with. Now we have a never-ending chord. Does this mean that we can have an infinite chord? But before we get into that, we're gonna have to look at the infinite. What does infinite mean? Well, in mathematical meaning, it basically means the boundless quantity. In mathematics, the symbol represents a concept of a number or quantity that is larger than any other number and has no bound. This also means that it's a limitless sequences. It is used to describe concepts like the endless sequence of natural numbers or function that increase without limits. Now back to music theory, the infinite chord cannot exist. It's impossible. Matter of fact, we can't even hear it. A human cannot hear a tune or a sound of pitch with a frequency above 20 Hz. The ultrasound. So no matter how accurate the infinite chord can be, our ears can't even hear it. So does the infinite chord exist? Well, technically yes, but no. Again, we do have a chord that is the closest that we can have to a never-ending chord, but just because of that, we won't be able to know what it's like. But the least that we could do is to try to recreate what the infinite chord theoretically sounds like.